Hey motorcycle fans, I'm Larry Huffman, and this is the BlackWater 100 video. Along with Buddy Little and four-time BlackWater champion Mark Hyde, we're going to bring you the following home video entertainment made possible by Scott USA, manufacturers of high-performance motorcycle racing goggles and fashionable eyewear. Scott USA, the difference is clear. By Wiseco high-performance motorcycle and ATV pistons forged from high silicone, low-expansion aluminum alloy. Wiseco pistons will increase the life of any cast iron line cylinder. By KTM Motorcycles. When you're caught between a rock and a hard place, turn to KTM and find out why a KTM motorcycle is built for champions. By Yokohama Tires, the official tire of the 1990 BlackWater 100. Yokohama, tires built for America's toughest race. By Dirt Bike Magazine, the off-road magazine America turns to. By Dirt Wheels Magazine, America's best source for BlackWater 100 ATV coverage. And by Cycle News, America's weekly motorcycle newspaper.
Welcome to the 16th annual BlackWater 100. I'm Bud Little, and this is America's toughest motorcycle and ATV race. Each year on Father's Day weekend, thousands of off-road enthusiasts converge on the small community of Davis, West Virginia to witness 2 days of competition on some of the most difficult and challenging terrain that this country has to offer. As the teams go through the pre-race ritual of last-minute preparation for the long and demanding event, the spectators pick out their vantage points in and around Davis. The town's businesses do their best to make sure that everyone has a great stay in Davis. The BlackWater 100 weekend is the most prosperous time of the year for the community merchants. Among first of orders of business for the event itself is the registration of all competitors and the drawing of starting positions. Another necessary task is transporting the numerous track personnel to their locations along the race course's 20-mile routes. The BlackWater 100 began in 1974 as a motorcycle race, but since 1983, the town has also opened the event to all-terrain vehicles. The first Saturday race for the ATVs attracted about 24 brave souls and was won by a local guy named Donnie Scud Huggins. Since that time, the event has grown to the point where the ATV race rivals the bikes in numbers and popularity. Nearly 500 competitors take to the streets on Saturday afternoons for their chance to ride the famed BlackWater 100 course. Following the 11 a.m. riders meeting, the competitors begin the slow process of pushing their machines through town to their respective starting positions along Main Street. The riders have drawn numbers from 1 to 500 in order to determine starting positions. The signal is finally given at 1 o'clock. Riders, start your engines. Bennett throws the flag every 5 seconds to allow a different group of riders to light off into the dust, which will probably be the only dust they see for the next 2 hours. At the top of the bank, riders get antsy about having their turn in the water. But down lower, everyone is just trying to stay afloat. It's a race to hurry up and wait your turn to cross the Beaver Creek on the outskirts of town. Further up the trail, the front runners are making their way into the spacious Canaan Valley, where most of the racing takes place. The early leader is Pennsylvania's Chuck DeLulo, runner-up in last year's cross-country series. DeLulo is a veteran of the BlackWater 100 and knows that the spectators can be as much an obstacle as any of the course's mud holes and creek crossings. While DeLulo zigzags his way through the early stages of the race on his Wiseco-equipped Brockway Honda 4Trax 250, Indiana's Bob Sloan comes into the picture. Sloan is a defending Grand National champion in the cross-country series and is known for his aggressiveness. He makes it through this section with a little help from his friends.
A lot of people might call that cheating, Buddy, but at the BlackWater 100, if you've got friends, you better use them.
Traction is a big part of this race. Someone pulling on the front end while you put your weight on the back is usually the best way out of a jam.
However, you don't want to get too far back.
Wow, that's called a BlackWater backflip. Scenes like these are why thousands of people travel from all over the country to witness firsthand some of the muddiest mud bog mania ever. This guy is determined to gas his way out of trouble. And with a little help from his newfound friends, he breaks through. Hey, can't someone tell him it's okay to let go of the bike just for a second? Now, it looks to me like this guy is just hopping into this mud bog to take a mud bath. Hey, Mom, where's the soap?
Riders may not want to ask for directions, but a helping hand is always welcome, and most times a necessity. You can tell the more seasoned fans by the way they help extract riders from the mud. Working from the front, veteran fans will form a human chain to help a rider through. After miles in the valley of mud bogs, the hard ground and green forests of the Appalachian Mountains can be a welcome sight to a man and his machine.
Talking about machines, this lonely machine just awaits the return of its master, as the Blackwater's mountainous terrain has proven too much for someone. This portion of the Blackwater is very interesting. Upon first view of this forest setting, one would think that these trees are embedded in nice, soft soil. But in reality, these trees are embedded in 100% hard, cold rock. If you look closely, the leaves that cover the Earth's floor are really covering those sharp, abrasive roots of these massive trees. The key to getting through this portion of the Blackwater is to stay on course and not to try any fancy lines. One false move and you could find yourself lost deep within the West Virginia forests with no way out, no gas, and only your feet for your guides.
It may look like a leisurely trail ride through the woods, but even the peaceful forests of this area contain obstacles that can keep riders pushing all day long. The Blackwater 100 is as much a test of strength and endurance as it is a race of speed and skill. Just past the halfway mark on the course, the arrows point the riders into the infamous Moon Rocks, a section of stones that run across the top of Hatfield Mountain and keep the riders occupied for over 1 mile of the race.
Traditionally, the Moon Rocks prove to be an easy obstacle in comparison with racing motorcycles at the Blackwater. But if you're not careful, the Moon Rocks can present problems. Once you make it up the steep portion of the rock, it's pretty much easy sailing over the hill. So far, it's been river crossings, mud bogs, rocky mountainous terrain, and now moon rocks that these riders have to contend with. And they've not even completed one lap of the Blackwater course. This is America's toughest race.
These sharp and jagged rocks are as formidable an opponent for some of the riders as the notorious bogs.
I talked earlier with a few of the ATV participants, and they were telling me how important good ATV tires really are in racing the Blackwater. The tires have to be strong enough to take a beating at every point of the Blackwater. I even found out that there's a company called ITP that makes an ATV tire called the Blackwater. Incredible. Finally, it looks like there's an easier way across the Scott USA Moon Rocks.
And just like the other parts of the course, following the other riders can be very important to your survival. The Moon Rocks are an unforgiving culprit of this track, but they do give the riders a chance to slow down and take a look around at the scenic beauty of the area.
Once over the hill portion of the Moon Rocks, you're really in for a bumpy ride. We call it the Devil's Freeway. Thousands of years in the making, the pure rock landscaping gives way to some beautiful wildflowers and some not-so-beautiful beat-up and dirty ATV racers. But beauty and wildflowers are not the prize of winning the Blackwater. It takes mud and guts just to finish this race.
As the riders descend from the Moon Rocks and begin winding their way back towards town, they're about to encounter the most feared obstacle in off-road racing, the notorious Route 93 river crossing and its thousands of fans, known collectively as the Mud Fleas. They arrive by the truckloads and fill the waters as if a huge baptism were about to begin. They practice their tribal mud dance for hours before the riders appear at the east bank of the Route 93 river crossing. These are the Mud Fleas. On the opposite bank of the water, a human wall forms that the riders must climb into. Actually, the Mud Fleas are there to help the participants in the race to make it up the slippery banks of the river's edge. The climb becomes a hands-on experience for riders and fans alike. Many of the mud fleas have become so adept at helping the riders that they can catch a falling ATV in one hand and never even spill their beer. Three-wheelers were banned from competition by the American Motorcyclist Association a few years back. This guy snuck into the water for a few attempts at climbing the bank. After several unsuccessful tries, there was nothing left of his trike.
Even though the mud fleas have a reputation for being just a little bit rowdy, most of the riders, myself included, would tell you without their help, you could never finish the Blackwater.
Well, this portion of the Blackwater is by far my personal favorite. After the many times of witnessing this incredible mob scene at the Route 93 river crossing, I'm amazed at the spectator participation displayed in this scene. I mean, I've been a professional television and radio announcer in the motorcycle industry for a lot more years than I'd like to admit, and I've not seen this type of excitement. Well, I've rarely seen this type of excitement anywhere else in the world. And I would like to say that my hat is off to Dave and Rita Coombs and the Alpine Festival offices in Davis, West Virginia. They have made this Blackwater 100 ATV race the race it really is. And this is what they call unbelievable ATV racing excitement.
Over again.
After the Route 93 crossing, it's a sprint to the finish. Bob Sloan won the 1990 Blackwater 100 by 2 minutes over Pennsylvanians Norm Bish and Chuck DeLulo. Maryland's Teddy Trey placed 4th overall, while Missouri Honda rider Ricky Matson finished 5th. It's Father's Day morning, time for the Blackwater 100 motorcycle race. The riders' meeting has adjourned, and the streets are filled with riders and fans preparing for the 16th annual running of the bike race. The 1990 event will play host to nearly 500 competitors traveling from more than 30 states and Canada, and about 25,000 fans. The bikes line up down the street 5 abreast, with the first 25 rows reserved for the expert class riders. California Desert star Larry Rossler has drawn the #1 starting position and places his Kawasaki KX250 on the pole position next to the 125 KTM of relatively unknown Tom Norton. Just before the final countdown to takeoff begins, Rossler fouls a spark plug, killing his engine. He has just seconds to change the plug before 500 riders make their way into the first turn. Rossler got a hand to change the plug with seconds to spare.
This is a crucial moment. Everybody's ready to start, and the #1 rider on the pole position needs a spark plug. So Larry Rossler's mechanic goes to work, and the Blackwater referee delays the race briefly to allow for the change. As the others watch on, it's the California boy, the Desert Fox Larry Rossler from Irvine, California, who needs a little help to get started. Before the race, many predicted Larry Rossler would win this race overall, but there's no room for predictions at the Blackwater.
Now we're ready to go, and the referee begins the 5-second countdown. And it's Rossler getting the jump on Norton and the #12 bike of Ohio's Gary Roach. There goes 125cc ace Gene O'Neill on the inside. 85 race winner Terry Cunningham is second from left in this row. Here's West Virginia's own Timmy Coombs lighting off from the 4th row. And now a rooftop view of the dozens of rows that follow up the street. They will race down into the right-handed corner that will then lead them to the first river crossing, the shallow Beaver Creek crossing. From there, it will be 4 25-mile loops around the valley.
Buddy, it's a little easier to see the rivers the riders wait to cross the first river crossing, unlike yesterday's situation before the ATV riders tried to cross.
Less than half a mile out of town, the pack runs into their second obstacle. There's Cunningham on the Kawasaki taking a middle route. And behind him, Ohio's Gene O'Neill goes down on the 7 Yamaha. He barely makes it across the muck without sinking in. Here comes North Carolina's Steve McSwain on the #28 KTM trying to make a pass on O'Neill. Number 4 is Tim Shepard, and a rider goes down. Can't tell who that is. Number 41 is Ohio Yamaha rider Jeff Russell, and there's Dave Fallis right behind him. Once out of this section, the riders must wade across the Camp 70 ford the second time through the Blackwater River.
After going through the muddy trenches, this second river crossing is a blessing in disguise. Number one, you can wash some of that heavy mud off your bike. And number two, you can get some cool relief from the summer's hot sun. There's one thing to watch out for in this particular river crossing. First, the large rocks hidden on the riverbed floor and the deep ruts that previous bikes created as they churn through the riverbed sand.
Riders have to be careful in the water because one slip here can cause major damage. This guy's day is over.
It sure is, Mark. Dropping that bike into the water like that can cause lots of havoc.
We catch up with the leaders again about 6 miles out of town. There's a surprising new leader now as Norton has overtaken Rossler. This is only the second ever Blackwater 100 for the New Englanders, but he's certainly riding like a pro. No 125cc motorcycle has ever led this late into the race, much less ever got close to winning. We'll see if Norton can snap the losing streak.
Tommy Norton on a KTM, the official sponsor of this year's Blackwater 100. If Tommy Norton can pull this off, KTM will be ecstatic. Winning the Blackwater is a real statement about the quality of a motorcycle, and KTM is certainly a well-built bike.
And there's Rossler again, an early favorite. The Californian is making his second trip east for the event, having finished 9th overall in the 1988 version of America's Toughest Race. This is the last time that the cameras will be able to pick up Larry because the wires fried on his ignition after one lap.
This portion of the Blackwater track is really tricky. As you can see, a rider can be just cruising along until all of a sudden the earth gives way beneath the bike. It's like trying to walk on water when your bike hits a mud hole, and there's no telling where a mud hole will appear.
No more than a dozen bikes have gone through this section, and you can see how bad it's getting out there.
As Buddy says, the more bikes that go through this section of the Blackwater, the more torn up the swampy ground becomes, making it more and more difficult to stay on the motorcycle.
Watch the guy pushing. That's Pennsylvania's Rick Kresick. He's been down this trail before. Kresick leads the vet expert class in the championship standings.
Now, this guy here has got himself in an interesting predicament. He's managed to lodge himself into the middle of a large bush. If he gets out of this one, he only has to look forward to more swamp land ahead.
This guy was lucky to get help this far out. The rescue squad finds another lucky victim.
Lucky victim is the right words for such, except in this case, I think these guys are having a little bit of trouble deciding exactly how to get this bike out of the hole. Now, this is what they call gassing it through the mud. Just look at the amount of mud, water, and grass flying from the back wheel of that motorcycle. Great video footage by the Moto Video camera crews.
That's right, time again for Route 93, home of the mud fleas. 2 years ago, we tried to broadcast from the middle of that church-like atmosphere. Our network personnel never came back. First through, it's Scott Summers, who goes right at the heart of the mud fleas. He gets 2 thumbs up for that effort. Norton has also come through, and soon the river will be full of unsuspecting riders.
If these guys aren't pumped up for some serious partying tonight, then my name isn't Larry Huffman. This camera footage of the scene at Route 93 is some of the best ever videotaped. I've got to say that I don't envy any rider who would have to ride into this group of hungry-for-action mobsters. But it seems that all this is in great fun, and respect for the riders is number one at the Blackwater's Route 93 river crossing.
The approach to this obstacle can be as treacherous as the bank on the other side. One false move, and it's over the bars, right in front of thousands of friends.
This rider got pointed into a hole by the fans of the East Bank. Even with help, he's not very happy with the people that have duped him, so he's going to get even with the mud fleas over there. While the backmarkers are playing catch with the mud fleas, the leaders have entered town. It's still Norton, a member of the controversial FAH-Q racing team from New England. Summers is right on his tail, followed closely by Yamaha teammates Lojack and Russell. As the track deteriorates further, riders begin looking for any way possible across the bogs. Here's West Virginia's Spanky Z. He thinks he's found a hot line over a makeshift bridge.
Spanky obviously forgot what Dave Coombs told everyone at the riders' meeting.
What's that, Mark?
Hey, if God had meant for them to be bridges at the Blackwater, he'd have built them himself. This guy forgot Dave's other theory.
Which is?
If there were meant to be jumps across the bogs, he'd have made ramps.
Dave's been doing this BlackWater 100 for a long time, guys, and if I were riding out there today, I'd listen to everything he has to say.
Here comes Summers. Summers into the pit area. Here we are in the Scott Summers pit area. Scott coming in. Norton just came through the number 1 position. Summers is doing some work on his rear wheel. His rear brake system going bad to Summers.
White flag is out, which means that Summers has to keep that thing together for about another hour. He's still about a minute ahead. Norton and Lojack passed Scott while he was in the pit area.
So Scott Summers pulling out of the pit area. About a minute and a half pit time for Scott Summers. An adjustment of the rear brake. New goggles, hoses himself down. He takes off in the number 3 position.
That's the race being called live by Tim Cotter as the spectators line the street for the finish of this year's BlackWater 100.
Norton raced across the finish line with a shocking upset win. The first ever in BlackWater 100 history for a 125cc motorcycle. In the excitement of it all, Norton almost went through the wrong scoring barrel.
Tommy Norton on the KTM wins the BlackWater 100, and what a ride by the Massachusetts native. An unpredicted winner of this year's BlackWater as Tim Norton makes his way to the staging area. I'd like to thank Wiseco High Performance Pistons, Yokohama Tires, Scott USA, KTM Motorcycles, Dirt Bike and Dirt Wheels magazines, and Cycle News for their support of this BlackWater video presentation.
Look up there. There you go.
The results of this year's BlackWater race are as follows. KTM's Thomas Norton, he was first. KTM's Mark Hyde, second. In third place, Yamaha's Tim Shepard. Finishing fourth, Honda's Scott Summers. Fifth, Yamaha's Frank Keegan. And sixth, KTM's Alan Gravitt, and the other BlackWater finishers. For Buddy Little and Mark Hyde, I'm Larry Huffman, signing off from the race portion of this BlackWater 100 video. See you next year.
Not me, buddy. I tell you what, I'm impressed. And now, from the Alpine Festival, hopefully with a towel, this young lady is going to present you with your trophy, and Rod Bush is going to present you with something you might like almost as much. No, you get your trophy first. Hold it up. Okay, he'll do it. The overall winner. Also, this trophy goes out in memory of Anita Barker, the lady that helped put this all together for many, many years.
And so another BlackWater 100 comes to a close. The valley will return to its usual serenity while the townspeople reminisce about those crazy dirt bikers. But in 1 year, they will all be back.
For the complete line of Scott products, write Scott USA, P.O. Box 2030, Sun Valley, Idaho 83353, or call toll-free from anywhere in America, 1-800-635-6387. Scott USA. Wiseco, 7201 Industrial Park Boulevard, Mentor, Ohio 44060. Call them at 1-800-321-1364. KTM, 1906 Broadway, Lorain, Ohio 44052. Call 216-246-1060 or 619-258-6300. Yokohama Tires, 50 Division Street East, Suite 200, Somersville, New Jersey 08876. Call them toll free 1-800-678-9656.